We will be talking about ways to fix human error in NFL officiating. There are multiple problems in the way NFL games are officiated that directly relate to human error. Today, we will be talking about the most common errors and how to fix them. The first one we will be addressing is roughing the passer. It has become a pretty big problem as the NFL has moved away from the rougher side of the game and started implementing rules to protect the players, thus making it harder for the defenders in the NFL to make a play on the QB. The penalty has been so inconsistent that the defenders in the league don't even know how to hit the QB without being penalized. The next common error that we see as a problem is defining a catch, because of how many rules have been implemented and then removed from what defines a catch. This is a problem because the NFL isn't quite sure on what to do to fix it. Another human error would be pass interference calls because these penalties can be game changing at any point, and one wrong call could affect the entire outcome of the game. Pass interference has become a really big problem recently, and there have been a lot of plays on the field that have been controversial, which has forced the NFL into making pass interference a challengeable and reviewable play. The first problem we will be addressing is roughing the passer. The rule in the official NFL rulebook states any unnecessary contact to the passer before, during, or after the throw that affects the throw and the passer. Examples include a pass rusher hitting a passer after the ball has been released, a pass rusher stuffing the passer into the ground, clubbing the arm of the passer, or the pass rusher forcibly hitting the head or neck area of the passer. The problem with the rule itself is that it has too many things for referees to check for. Refs are led on to make uninformed decisions when the play is actually happening. This leads to missed calls which ruin the game for the teams and their fans. An example of this was when Clay Matthews, a linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, hit Minnesota Viking quarterback Kirk Cousins and drove him into the ground, which he really doesn't do. Nonetheless, this play was called for roughing the passer, which left the players and fans to be baffled. This gave another set of downs to the Minnesota Vikings, which ultimately led to a touchdown. None of this would have been possible without the human error by the ref. Our recommendation to get rid of the human error would to be change the rules to make it simpler. The new rule would be to call any contact initiated after the release of the ball, creating easier decisions for the officials and easier to understand guidelines for the player. This would speed up the game to make it more entertaining while eliminating the human error. Next on the list is pass interference. In the NFL official rulebook, pass interference states pass interference by either team when any act by a player more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage significantly hinders an eligible player's opportunity to catch the ball. Pass interference can only occur when a forward pass is thrown from behind the line of scrimmage, regardless of whether the pass is legal or illegal or whether it crosses the line. The problem with pass interference is that it's all about perspective. One official may see a clean play by the offense or defense, while the other sees pass interference. For example, the Rams and Saints in last year's playoffs in the NFC Championship game, the Rams defender significantly hindered the receiver, but the flag was never thrown. One ref had his hand on the flag, but the other ref told him not to throw the flag because of his perspective. He didn't see a problem with the play. The Rams would end up getting the ball after the Saints would kick their field goal, and the Rams would go down the field and send it into overtime, where the Saints would eventually end up losing their playoff game. Our rules of making pass interference easier to call would be once the ball is in the air, if a player from either team is at all interfered from being able to catch the ball, a flag would be thrown. Last, we will be defining a catch, as this tends to be the most common problem. The rule in the official NFL rule states having secure control of the ball in his hands or arms prior to the ball touching the ground, touches the ground inbounds with both feet or with any part of his body other than his hands, and after both of those requirements have been fulfilled, they will perform any act common to the game, or he maintains control of the ball long enough to do so. The problem that lies with this comes into play when someone catches a ball and struggles to maintain possession of the ball going to the ground. There are many examples of referees struggling to understand this rule and call it properly on the field. We have two videos that demonstrate the ruling of a catch being wrong or at the very least controversial. The first video was initially ruled a touchdown and then overturned to an incomplete pass. As you can see, the receiver clearly has possession of the ball, 2 feet in bounds, and even puts an extra hand down before the ball touches the ground and pops free. He had already done 3 things that should have ruled it as a catch, but instead it's ruled incomplete. The next video showcases a more recent video of a tight end catching a ball and then proceeding to dive into the end zone. The reason this was incomplete was because the ball had popped free at the end of the play. Jesse James, the tight end, clearly had control of the ball, a knee down, and goes to dive for the end zone. He breaks the plane, so this should have been ruled a touchdown. But because he lost control of the ball after he had already crossed the plane, it was ruled incomplete. This is a common problem from week to week, as just last week when the Chiefs were playing the Lions, there were 2 controversial calls on the same player. This had caused the rule to undergo many changes during the last couple of years because the NFL is not sure on whether or not to overcomplicate the rules or simplify them. We believe the best answer would be to simplify the rules as this would allow the refs an easier time calling the play live as well as shorten the time it takes to review a play. Our rule would be 2 feet or any part of the body in bounds, control the ball. However, the ball is allowed to bobble unless it pops completely free as it hits the ground. We have presented you with 3 common human errors made by referees when calling an NFL game, which are roughing the passer, pass interference, and defining a catch. The common problem with these rules is that they are too complex for referees to call with consistency, as there have been multiple games where game time decisions are blown because of the inconsistency that comes within the rules being so complicated. In general, a solution would be for the referees to have more training, not only in the off-season but during the regular season. This would help them understand the rules and calls to play with consistency. However, our solutions tend to simplifying the rules, which allow the refs to have an easier time calling the plays as well as stability for the calls, instead of having to review every single play to make sure it meets all of the criteria.